Emmy stared at the crisp black envelope on her desk. No name, just a single word, elegantly scripted in shimmering silver ink, varnishing. An invitation. To what, she wasn't sure.
A thrill shot through her, a mix of apprehension and excitement. Art was Emmy's sanctuary, her escape from the mundane. And this felt different, special. A secret society? An elite group of artists? A slow, mischievous smile spread across her face. She couldn't wait to find out.
Becca vanished after she got one of those.
Emmy spun around, the envelope clutched tightly in her hand. Jonas leaned against the doorway of her room, his face unusually serious.
Vanished? What do you mean?
Gone. Poof. Like she never existed. No one remembers her, not even her parents. It's like she was erased. Don't go, Emmy. It's not safe.
Emmy couldn't shake off the unsettling feeling Jonas's words had left behind. But the allure of the unknown, of the Vanishing Club, was too strong to resist. The next day, she found herself standing before a nondescript door at the end of a deserted hallway. Taking a deep breath, Emmy knocked. The door creaked open, revealing a staircase shrouded in darkness. Ignoring the prickle of fear crawling up her spine, she stepped inside. The air hung heavy with the scent of linseed oil and turpentine. A single flickering bulb cast long dancing shadows across the room. At the far end, a figure stood bathed in a pool of dim light, its face obscured by a blank white mask. Other figures, similarly masked and silent, sat hunched over canvases, their brushes moving with a mechanical precision that sent shivers down Emmy's spine. The figure at the end of the room gestured towards an empty easel.
Paint, capture what you see, capture what you feel.
I picked up a brush, my hand trembling slightly. A strange compulsion, an unseen force seemed to guide my movements. The brush danced across the canvas, strokes appearing as if by magic, forming shapes I hadn't intended to create.
She tried to stop, to pull her hand away, but it was no use. Her body felt distant, controlled by an unknown puppet master. Looking around, she noticed the other students, their faces vacant and blank behind their masks, their movements eerily synchronized, like clockwork dolls.
I paced restlessly outside the art room, my unease growing with each passing minute. I knew something was wrong. I could feel it. I tried the door, but it was locked. "Emmy!" I shouted, pounding on the wood.
No answer, only an unsettling silence. He threw himself against the door, the lock splintering under the force. The room was empty. Easels stood abandoned, canvases blank. But as he turned to leave, he noticed something peculiar. The walls seemed to shift, the room distorting around him, transforming into a long, narrow corridor with no end in sight. The figure in the mask, known only as the Varnisher, approached Emmy's canvas with a deliberate, almost ritualistic grace. Each step echoed in the dimly lit room, amplifying the sense of foreboding that hung in the air. Emmy watched, her heart pounding in her chest, as the Varnisher's gloved hand reached out, fingers curling around the handle of a wide, flat brush. A sense of dread washed over her as it dipped the brush into a jar filled with thick, viscous liquid. The substance clung to the bristles, glistening ominously under the sparse light. Emmy's breath caught in her throat, the air thick with anticipation and fear. She knew what was coming, but the inevitability of it all made her feel helpless, like a moth drawn to a flame. The liquid smelled faintly of almonds, a scent that might have been pleasant under different circumstances. But there was something else, something metallic and sharp that cut through the sweetness, making her stomach churn. It was a smell that spoke of finality, of endings. Emmy's eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape, but there was none. The Varnisher was methodical, precise, and there was no stopping what was about to happen.
The final touch. The words echoed in her mind, a grim reminder of the irreversible act that was unfolding before her. The Varnisher's movements were slow, deliberate, as if savoring the moment. Each stroke of the brush seemed to seal her fate a little more, trapping her in a web of shimmering varnish.
With a single, sweeping stroke, it coated the canvas, sealing Emmy's fate beneath a layer of shimmering, impenetrable varnish. The liquid spread out, covering every inch of the painting, locking in the colors and the memories they held. Emmy felt a chill run down her spine as she realized that her essence, her very being, was now trapped beneath that glossy surface. As the fumes reached her, a wave of dizziness washed over her. The room seemed to spin, the edges of her vision blurring as the toxic scent filled her lungs. She tried to steady herself, but her legs felt weak, her body betraying her. The world around her began to fade, the colors dimming, the sounds growing distant. It was as if she was being pulled into the canvas, her consciousness merging with the painted scene. Her memories flickered and faded, replaced by a blank white emptiness. Faces, places, moments that once defined her life slipped away, leaving behind a void. She struggled to hold on to them, but they were like sand slipping through her fingers. The more she tried to remember, the more they eluded her, until there was nothing left but a stark white canvas in her mind. The last thing she saw before the darkness claimed her was the Varnisher's cold, blank mask, inches from her own. The eyes behind the mask were void of emotion, reflecting only the cold, unfeeling nature of the act. Emmy's own reflection stared back at her from the glossy surface, a silent witness to her own erasure. And then, there was nothing, just the darkness and the faint, lingering scent of almonds. Jonas ran through the endless corridor, the walls seeming to press in on him. His breath came in ragged gasps, each step echoing ominously in the confined space. The darkness was suffocating, and the air felt thick with an unspoken dread. He could feel the weight of the walls, as if they were alive, closing in with every passing second. The corridor seemed to stretch on forever, a never-ending nightmare from which there was no escape. Jonas's heart pounded in his chest, a frantic drumbeat that matched the urgency of his flight. He had to keep moving, had to find a way out before the darkness consumed him entirely. He could hear Emmy's voice echoing in the distance, calling his name. It was faint, almost drowned out by the oppressive silence. But it was there, a beacon of hope in the darkness. "Jonas!" she called, her voice tinged with fear and desperation. He strained to hear her, to follow the sound, but the corridor twisted and turned, a labyrinth designed to confuse and disorient. Every step felt like a step further away from her, but he couldn't give up. He had to find her, had to save her from whatever horrors lay in wait. Suddenly, he burst into a grand hall, lined with portraits. The sudden change in scenery was jarring, the oppressive corridor giving way to a vast, open space. The hall was eerily silent, the only sound the echo of his footsteps on the marble floor. The portraits lined the walls, each one more unsettling than the last. They seemed to watch him, their eyes following his every move. Jonas felt a chill run down his spine as he took in the room, the sense of unease growing with every passing second. Each one was eerily similar, depicting students with vacant eyes and lifeless smiles. The faces were hauntingly familiar, yet disturbingly alien. It was as if the artist had captured their souls, trapping them in a state of perpetual emptiness. Jonas couldn't shake the feeling that the portraits were more than just paintings, that they held some dark secret. He moved closer, examining the details, the brushstrokes that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. The eyes, so vacant and lifeless, seemed to bore into his soul, filling him with a sense of dread.
Becca. Her face was among the portraits, her expression one of distress and fear. Jonas's heart ached at the sight, the realization that she too was trapped in this nightmare. He reached out, his fingers brushing against the canvas, as if he could somehow pull her free, but the portrait remained cold and unyielding, a cruel reminder of the reality they were all facing.
Jonas grabbed a nearby palette knife and attacked the canvas in a frenzy. His movements were wild and desperate, each slash a cry of defiance against the darkness that threatened to consume him. The knife cut through the layers of paint, revealing the truth hidden beneath. He worked with a feverish intensity, driven by a need to uncover the secrets that lay hidden in the portraits. The sound of the knife scraping against the canvas was harsh and grating, a stark contrast to the silence that filled the hall. With a sickening crack, the portrait shattered, revealing another image beneath, a terrified face trapped behind a layer of thick varnish. The face was twisted in fear, eyes wide with terror. Jonas recoiled at the sight, the realization that these were not just paintings, but prisons for the souls of the students. The varnish seemed to pulse with a dark energy, a barrier that kept the souls trapped and unable to escape. Jonas knew he had to find a way to break the spell, to free the souls from their torment. He was running out of time. The clock on the wall ticked ominously, each second a reminder of the urgency of his mission. He could feel the weight of the task ahead, the knowledge that failure was not an option. The faces in the portraits seemed to plead with him, their silent cries for help echoing in his mind. Jonas took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. He had to stay focused, had to keep moving forward, no matter the cost. He had to find Emmy before it was too late. The thought of her trapped in this nightmare, her voice calling out to him in desperation, spurred him on. He couldn't let her down, couldn't let the darkness win. Jonas took one last look at the shattered portrait, the terrified face a stark reminder of what was at stake. With renewed determination, he turned and ran, the corridor stretching out before him once more. The walls seemed to close in again, but this time, he was ready. He would find Emmy, no matter what it took. Emmy awoke with a gasp, her mind a swirling void. The remnants of a nightmare clung to her consciousness, fading like mist but leaving behind a sense of dread. She couldn't remember the details, but the fear was palpable, a cold sweat covering her skin. She sat up, disoriented, a throbbing pain pulsing behind her eyes. The room spun slightly and she pressed her palms against her temples, trying to steady herself. The headache was relentless, as if her mind was trying to break free from some unseen chains. She was back in the art room, the only evidence of the strange club meeting a lingering scent of turpentine and a single empty easel. The room felt different now, almost haunted by the absence of her friends. The scattered supplies seemed to whisper secrets she couldn't quite grasp.
Jonas, where are you? Her voice trembled as she called out, the silence of the room amplifying her fear. She had to find him, to make sure he was okay. The emptiness around her felt suffocating, each unanswered call echoing her growing panic.
She stumbled out into the hallway, the school deserted. The once familiar corridors now seemed alien, shadows lurking in every corner. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the sound of her own footsteps. It was as if the entire building was holding its breath. She called out for Jonas, her voice echoing in the empty corridors. Each shout seemed to bounce back at her, mocking her desperation. The echoes were her only companions, a haunting reminder of her solitude. She felt a chill run down her spine, but there was no answer. The silence was deafening, a void that swallowed her cries. She felt a growing sense of dread, the realization that she might be truly alone sinking in. The school, once a place of learning and laughter, now felt like a tomb. As she walked home, a chilling realization dawned on her. The streets were eerily quiet, the usual hustle and bustle of the city replaced by an unsettling calm. She felt like she was walking through a dream, everything around her slightly out of focus. No one she passed recognized her. Faces that should have been familiar were blank, eyes sliding over her as if she didn't exist. It was as if she had become a ghost, drifting through a world that no longer acknowledged her presence. No one even seemed to see her. She reached out, trying to touch someone, anyone, but her hand passed through them like smoke. The realization was like ice in her veins. She was invisible, a phantom in her own life. It was as if she were invisible. The world moved on without her, indifferent to her existence. She was a forgotten face, lost in the crowd, unseen and unheard. The weight of her isolation pressed down on her, a silent scream trapped in her throat. Back in her room, Emmy found a familiar black envelope on her desk. Her name, scrawled in Jonas's handwriting, adorned the front. Trembling, she tore it open.
What is this?
Inside, a single line, written in shimmering silver ink, sent a fresh wave of terror crashing over her.
Don't worry, I'm coming for you. We're next.